order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, DL 30A 518, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing a limitation on the number of people that may gather in one location. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. Information such as instructions and guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website at www.yarmouth.ma.us. The video will be posted on the town's YouTube page as soon as we are able to. And I believe we need a roll call of our members.
Right, to accept
Andy?
the use of the online meeting method.
Andy,
Oh,
you. Do you?
yes,
accept?
yes.
Thank you. Bev,
That was a yes.
I think that's yes. Ted,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
and I do as well. All right, so let's just, Chris is not here. Let's just follow along with the minutes of the last meeting. They were distributed. And has anybody have any questions, or would someone like to make an?
There, by the way, there is one minor change. The footnote had the date for the prior week because originally we were going to meet on the 8th. So I did adjust that to the 15th in my final edits that I'm going to send off to Anita.
Okay. Could
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting as amended by Richard.
All
I
right.
second that motion.
All those in favor?
Roll
Andy?
call vote.
Andy?
Aye.
Bev?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Richard?
Yes.
I as well. Accepted. Now we open the floor to public comments, and I believe we have Barbara joining us.
Yes, thank you. I've actually have a short statement that I would like to read. So if I don't look out at you, it's because I'm reading. I am still learning about the GEC and the Yarmouth Golf experience, but I would like the GEC to actively seek out a better cost for local residents for the following reasons. Based on the current membership cost, there is no incentive for me to be a member of my own community services and resources. For the same price that I pay in Yarmouth, I can pretty much play in any other town. I also see this as a clear bias by the town to make golfers pay the full price of services when Yarmouth provides incentives for youth sports, youth programs like those at Flax Pond, which, by the way, as a local citizen, I cannot even go there because summer camp program runs Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. As a year-round resident, taxpayer, my tax dollar, like yours, pays for everything in this community, including the new DPW building and the new middle school. I'll also be supporting and paying for the new wastewater system and any other projects coming around the corner. As a taxpayer, I also pay to maintain the town's parks and conservation land. So based on the golfer's cost theory, shouldn't we be charging an entrance fee to anyone accessing those services? That is rhetorical. I do not play soccer or basketball or baseball or softball, but I am paying to maintain the fields, which I honestly don't mind because it's part of my community. I also do not have children that use the playground swings, but again, I am paying to maintain those services, and again, I honestly don't mind because it's my community. As for the schools, I don't have any children, but gladly help pay the $65 million cost to educate 2,700 kids out of a population of 23,000 plus or minus, a population in which almost half the community of Yarmouth is over the age of 55. Again, if we apply the approach to how golfers have to pay the full price, I guess I'll be getting a tax refund since I don't have any kids attending school. A little humor. I would like to also let you know that I love Yarmouth. I have lived in this community for almost 20 years, and I'm curious to know how many Yarmouth residents could not afford to join the Yarmouth Golf Club courses because of the cost. It's about $500 more than Dennis Yarmouth. And I know that we can debate the quality of the courses, et cetera. But as a local resident, it's still a cost prohibitive for some residents. So it's important that you don't misinterpret these comments, because I do support my community. I just want things to be fair. Reducing the golf membership for local residents should be the standard and not the exception. And that is my public comment. So thank you.
Barbara, since you initiated this conversation with me over the GEC chairperson email account, and you and I have exchanged some information on this. I have one question for you. How long have you been a member in Yarmouth?
This is my second year. I just joined this. This is the second year. I retired last July. And before I retired, I kept looking at all the rates around in the community, and I was actually pretty excited because, I think 4 or 5 years ago, the cost to join the Yarmouth golf courses was around $750, $800. And then I retire and boom.
Well, it was $850 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then it went up to $890 because we have a 5% cap. And then a change was made. What you missed was about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a financial crisis of a sort in town over golf. And the selectmen sought to seek an outside management company, Billy Casper, to come in and take over golf in Yarmouth. And it had to do with the fact that because of a number of circumstances beyond golf's control, they had two seasons where they lost money. And selectmen became very concerned. The town has always had a policy that golf is provided on the basis of the revenues provided by the daily fee golfers. Unlike Dennis, especially, golf receives no money from the general fund. Though enterprise funds don't have to run that way, the select board in Yarmouth has decided that golf be financially independent. Therefore, there's no tax money that comes in from the general fund. There's no requirement that non-residents pay more. As part of that financial emergency of sorts, we chose to not have an increased fee for non-residents to attract more members. That's why the two are equal. Now the cost, we raised the basic annual fee more than 5% by going to a town meeting and getting permission of the town meeting. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yes.
And that raised the fee to the what it was last year, and it went up 5% this year to be $1,200. Now, if you go to the other towns and look at their non-resident memberships, our membership is less than any of their non-resident memberships. So you could go to Dennis, but you wouldn't be able to pay the $750. You'd have to pay.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
And
I
they-
understand that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I would certainly prefer to golf in Yarmouth in my community. So if I'm going to spend $1,200 somewhere, I could spend that $1,200 in Dennis, or I could spend that $1,200 in Barnstable.
No, you could. And
you
in
know.
fact, we have a lot of members who come here and as non-resident members from Cranberry Valley because they can't get any tee times because they have too many members. But that's a whole nother issue.
Right. So if,
We don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying.
Mhm.
The idea that golf is not supported from the general fund has always been the philosophy of the select board. We, you know,
And Barbara, you do have to understand, the GEC is a strictly advisory committee. We make no policy. We don't even produce policy. We are there at the request of the Board of Selectmen to help. We work with the director of golf, but it is the GEC itself cannot make any policy. And we do go before the Board of Selectmen 3 times each year as to do our rate schedule. And so it's 3 times before it's actually voted on by the Board of Selectmen to accept what we had suggested. And we did come back 2 years ago, last year, and offer up the links membership for people that are not playing every week and or would like a reduced way to play golf. And that was our answer to it. And
so if I understand everything correctly, and again, I'm not privy to the information that you folks have, or I'm not privy to the financial information, et cetera. But if I understand everything, it's simply that the town of Yarmouth, the selectmen said, we're not going to support the golf courses, run it on your own, or we have no golf courses. Is that kind of the gist of what I have here?
Barbara, I would like to respond to that. And we are we are an enterprise fund. Yes, in fact, the town has said, because we're an enterprise fund, they give us not 1 penny. We have run this as an enterprise fund for well over 10 or 15 years now, not getting 1 penny from the town. And I, in fact, in opposition to Ted, do disagree with some of the things you've said. I personally was unhappy with some of the things at Yarmouth Golf last year. I looked very hard and deeply into joining another course. I looked into Barnstable, I looked into Dennis, and I love Yarmouth Golf. My heart is with Yarmouth Golf, but I was disappointed in some of the things. I looked at those
the committee,
I played those courses, and I decided to come back to Yarmouth. $1,200 is an extremely reasonable figure and an amount for what you get in golf in Yarmouth. Thank you.
all right.
As part of the financial discussions that we had 2 years ago, as Ellen mentioned, we did want to offer golf to those people in town who might not be able to afford the full price. We used to have some programs, what they called punch cards, that were determined to be too much of a financial burden on golf. We had a financial overview by the National Golf Foundation. And one of the first things they said is that we had to get rid of the punch cards. So we got rid of the punch cards, but we still wanted to offer something to the residents in town who either might have a financial difficulty with paying the full $1,200, or because of their age or other encumbrances might not feel comfortable spending that much money for golf when they wouldn't play as often, but they would have the opportunity to still play golf by our offering the Links membership.
Let me chime in for a minute on this, because there's a lot of things going on here. The board of selectmen don't actually, set that. When we became an enterprise, that had to go to town meeting, and that's where it was set back in, I think Ted can elaborate, I think it was 2004 or something like that.
Yeah, in 2004.
It was a town meeting vote that pushed it to the enterprise. Likewise, if we have to go above the 5% cap, which we did 2 years ago, that had to go to town meeting vote as well. So it's not just the board, it's the entire town as well. And another thing that needs to be clear is we don't actually set the rates. We come up with the GEC as a rate structure we would like to see that goes in front of the board of selectmen through 2 fee hearings, which are all open to the public to weigh in on what they thought. It then goes to a vote by the board after the second fee hearing, whether they want to accept it or not. But
Okay.
there's many chances to weigh in on the fee structure when it goes to before it goes in front of the board.
Even before the enterprise fund, it was the policy of the town that golf support itself, even though it was still considered technically part of under the auspices of the general fund. Golf had to support itself. And one of the reasons why they ended up creating the enterprise fund was because there were numerous arguments every fall when the new rates were set as to whether or not golf was either breaking even or making any money. And the town kept trying to say that they needed to raise the rates more because golf was losing money, and the golfers in their investigations of the books, so to speak, were finding that golf was not losing money. And then when the selectmen tried to raise the rates, without going into a lot of detail, to what would have been an exceptionally high number at that time for somebody who wanted to play an unlimited amount of golf, the golfers basically revolted and called a special town meeting in March by circulating a petition. And that's where the enterprise fund was created.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, Barbara, but we have a lot to do today, and I don't think there's anything more at this point we can discuss for you. If you would mail your statement into the, in fact, I think you've already done that, more or less mailed it to Ted, or the GEC chairman, the email for the GEC.
Sure, I'll email it. I'll email it to you folks so that you have it for the record. And I appreciate your time. I may still pursue some comments on this, but I'm still learning a little bit more about the GEC and how things are set up. But I appreciate your time tonight, folks. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
should be
Barbara.
aware too that you're not the only person who has mentioned this. I have heard other people have concerns. Well, why don't why don't people live in town get a break? It's not that they don't get a break. We could just charge non-residents more if we wanted to.
Right. I mean, I get it. And again, I'm not privy to some of the same information, but as I learn more, I can participate more as well. So again, thank you. I'll let you get on with your meeting because they're all exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see we have one more member. Well, Chris has joined. Richard, I assume you've noted that. And
Hi, sorry I'm late. Had to come out of work.
no problem. And Bruce Morey has joined. Bruce, before we move on to our agenda, do you have anything you'd like to bring up? Any comments?
No, I joined a couple sessions ago, and I heard the updates that were going on, or that were discussed around the Bass River location. And being a relatively new resident homeowner down in South Yarmouth, looking to just learn more about the golf programs. I've been going down there for years and golfed, hundreds of times at Bass River and Bayberry. So just interested in seeing what's going on with the from a golf perspective in the town of South Yarmouth.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
No problem.
All right. Well, the next place on the agenda, we were going to review the fact that the Board of Selectmen had requested us to do a presentation and be part of the whole Dennis Yarmouth wastewater plan on the 27th. I think with all that's gone on right now with Dennis and Harwich, that may be premature.
What's the purpose of our representation at this meeting? This isn't our program. It's not our project.
Well, it certainly is we are certainly involved in this project. It's Blue Bass River will be out of commission for 18 months.
I understand that part of it. I just wondering what the agenda is for the presentation at Board of Selectmen.
To prove that we have the planning in place to be able to cover for the fact that we are asking for that the middle of the road plan for what to do with the Bass River.
And do we believe that's true, that as a statement?
That is part of our that is part of what we've been budgeting and planning for the last couple of meetings. And I certainly wanted to go into it in more depth. If you have some questions, this is the time to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, the capital planning framework is certainly an excellent effort. I don't have any questions or concerns about that. I don't know that it actually was intended to be a planning tool for a multi-million-dollar renovation. So I think there's probably some connectivity there that needs to be addressed.
I think that there has to be a tool to help to plan so that we can honestly go to the Board of Selectmen and say, yes, we can sustain our choices for what is going to happen with the Bass River.
Mm-hmm. And I've been in all of these meetings all the way along as everybody else here. So I'm not connecting the dots quite as simply. If you'll forgive the statement, I suppose it's, I wouldn't feel comfortable endorsing a plan right now that we're ready to embark on this journey. I have not heard any evidence that we understand what capacity planning is going to be like, or that we have procedures in place to deal with the changeover and the closure of that course. Maybe I'm not as well read into this as some of the other folks in this committee.
Well, Chris, I think some of the things like you just mentioned are issues that really don't need to be addressed until an actual date for the closure is announced. And nothing really can be planned formally and firmly, because everything is still kind of up in the air.
Okay.
There's a 2-year planning period once the town votes on the project and adopts the project. Then there's a 2-year planning period.
Yeah.
Before anything takes place. And then there's the 3-year time period for construction. And we don't even have to start construction at Bass River at the beginning of that 3-year time period. It could be during the second year or during the 3rd year. So there's a lot of balls still floating in the air.
Yeah, that's what.
And then we had the meeting that was reported on in the Cape Cod Times a couple of weeks ago. I think I sent everybody a copy of that, where all of a sudden Dennis and Harwich are not voting on it this spring.
Right. I had heard about that as well.
And when we had our meeting with the people from, with David Young from the wastewater planning company and the head of the Department of Public Works, just
Yeah,
like a
I
week
remember that.
before,
That was
just
a
a
couple
week
months ago.
before
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it looked like Dennis and Yarmouth were definitely going to vote, and probably Harwich, and now all of a sudden two of them aren't.
Hmm.
And the Yarmouth selectmen seem pretty concerned about the delays that will cause, because we have to work with the state along Route 28.
Yeah. Yep. All of that sounds very familiar, and I appreciate the recap.
If that project gets delayed beyond a certain point, then we won't be able to work in conjunction with the state when they open up 28 to put in the sewer lines at the same time.
Right. So as somebody who's been trained in project management, though, what I'm trying to get at is that we haven't developed a project schedule that tells or informs a date where they can say, oh, well, we have a drop dead date, or if we slip this date, then all of a sudden the project is off. That's not really in scope for us.
No,
I'm
it's
also thinking that we can't develop our approach to that until we know or have an idea what Dennis and Howard are going to do.
Right.
I think it'd be foolish to commit ourselves right now when we don't know what the other two people are going to do.
well,
I don't think we're really committing ourselves to anything. We are saying that this is the plan we would prefer, and this is where we think we are. There's a lot of unknowns at this point. Also is the fact that we have kept, I believe Scott has kept from doing some of the basic Bass River maintenance, etc., that should be done, needs to be done, but we've kept up putting it off because if this plan is going forward and we're going to close the Bass River, there's no sense having it done. So we have multiple issues that do affect golf.
we also have the issue that the town is going to is faced with doing this either alone or in the consortium. And from what that article in the Cape Cod Times said, Selectman Tolley spoke very strongly about going alone. And if the town goes alone, then all the costs will be borne by the town, including the costs to put Bass River back in playable condition, either as it was before they started the work, or according to the master plan that we thought was a better option that included a major renovation of Bass River to turn it into a more modern and also a safer golf course. Now, how that would affect the town's decisions when it comes to spending money, when there's not a consortium of two other towns that's going to help pay for those costs, when the costs are all going to be on the town, that could definitely affect the town's decisions as to, what choice gets made and how much money gets spent.
Yeah, to elaborate on Ted's point, either way, in DHY, what happens is that Bass River is number one, and it happens real fast.
Right.
In Town of Yarmouth, it still happens, but it's not the first thing that happens. It's further down the road, so you're looking at probably 8 to 10 years out.
It's also a financial burden on a bigger financial burden on the town. They're expecting that they would save money by having the consortium, but
either way, Bass River is needed.
Right.
Way.
No matter
I
what.
don't think we should delay the maintenance work on Bass River. The way I understood it was that regardless of what happened at the vote, that the earliest opportunity for any of this was going to be, fiscal 22, right? So, I mean, how does that impact us today? It doesn't really, it's not a showstopper today. There's
Well,
nothing
I
that
agree.
prevents
It's
us.
going to be a couple of years until this starts. We shouldn't delay any required maintenance to Bass River. Also, I think we're getting.
Well, the
afield
town
of
manager
this
hasn't
discussion
allowed
started.
for any of
I
that
do
work to be
believe-
done either.
I do believe that we're getting far afield of where this discussion started. Wasn't this about how will we make a presentation to the selectmen on how it's going to affect golf? Is that what we're talking about?
The golf committee, and if you had gone back and listened to the Board of Selectmen meetings in the last couple of weeks, you would see where they had stressed that they wanted to make sure we had some plans in place that we have in the past for the Bayberry. They were just told we can cover it. They didn't feel that they had a comfort with that. We can't walk up to them and say, go forward, Dennis, Yarmouth. We're good, we're covering it.
It's not dependent upon us. We're the recipients of this program.
I
not-
agree.
Yeah.
If they ask that question, we should answer, yes, we can do it, and let them handle the problem.
Right.
We
Well,
are.
I
Say,
think-
based on what?
Wait a minute.
I think that that's part of what Richard had with his budget tool, was a way of presenting our thoughts and our capabilities, or not ours, but golf's capabilities when it comes to planning the the
Well, that-
progress of this operation.
Well, I don't think that was what its original intention was. I do agree that it does give us capabilities, but this was an annual operating plan development, and that tool supports that effort. It wasn't designed to do major capital infrastructure projects that are completely, I mean, that's like the child telling the parent how to develop their budget, right?
But we have some input from, we had some input at the last meeting from the people from David Young from the wastewater company, the planning company,
Yeah.
concerning how much money in the original plan that the consortium would contribute, and what the balance that Yarmouth would have to pay.
But that's a town budgeting issue, not a golf budgeting
No, it
issue.
is not. It is for us, it is
For us, it's a
percentage of what we have to pay to have the changes to the Bass River Golf Club made. If they're only going to pay a percentage of what it takes to move the bunkers, fix the bunkers, etc., we have to be prepared to step up to say we can handle the other piece.
I think that's true. Actually, I would support that statement. I think that we should do that anyways. I think that we should go forward with our capital budgeting process and say, here's what our needs are, and here's the formula that we believe is possible to fulfill that. And that should be irrespective of whether wastewater comes in. It's like we keep wanting to bet the house on the ace of spades that's in the deck, right?
Well, are we not starting somewhere by starting with this plan? For as far as as long as I've been a member of this committee, this is the first year we have had a plan in place that spreads out over 20 years what is necessary to be done to keep the courses in good shape, and what our extra revenue would be to support additional changes. We have to
Right.
start somewhere.
No, I agree. And I think, again, I said it's a great effort. I've praised it since its inception. I just think it almost seems like it's a hammer looking for a nail, right? I mean, seems like the focus should be on what is our operating goal and our operating plans. And oh, by the way, if wastewater comes through, then great, we'll adjust, right? Not we're going to play in the wastewater piece based upon what if scenarios of whether wastewater money comes through or not. That's what they want to know, right?
No, I think they want to know that we have a good handle on what our operating expenses are
Okay.
and what we have
And that seems
forecasted
fair.
to the best of our ability, additional revenues to support an additional project.
I would say that that's probably okay, but I'm not sure that the intention for our excess revenue was ever intended to fund the wastewater renovation project.
No, our intention is to fund the difference between what the costs are to return Bass River to the condition it was in when they started the work, or to a renovated Bass River.
Mhm.
And they want to see, I think, that we have the financial wherewithal, a way to show them concretely that we have a plan that supports our financial stability.
Okay. Well, I think in that context, it makes good sense. But I think that the problem where I'm getting hung up on terminology is when we start connecting it to wastewater.
Well,
But it is part of
there was a plan to do a renovation at Bass River anyway, before wastewater even came up.
Right.
There was a $2 million or $2.5 million placeholder in a future budget year for planning that kind of a renovation. And right now, the parts of the confusion are over how much each piece is going to cost, and arguing with the consortium about how much they should contribute.
I mean, if you ask me, I'm happy to support whatever everybody thinks is the right way to go, but I think we're biting off way too much. I don't see this as a situation where we're going to be able to define what the wastewater, scenarios are going to be if the money comes through, if it doesn't come through, if the percentages change, what's the impact analysis to our bottom line? That's not a. And the other thing is that I think we need to acknowledge is that the model that's been developed has a lot of assumptions built into it, right?
It does.
Yeah, so I mean, you have to take into account those things too. So I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I just think that it's, it would be.
Chris, when we went through this and we went through the 3 plans and what we would like to see for Bass River if there were a wastewater project, and there's going to be at some point, I think. Did you not vote in support of the second?
I did. It's on record.
Yes. Right. So is that not how we're going to get to that point of answering the questions about, can we as an advisory group feel that we could possibly handle going with that second choice?
So I'm back, so, so we're back, if I could bring it back just for a minute. The question was what role, if any, the GEC was gonna have at this selectmen's meeting on the 27th. Have we gotten any additional input from the selectmen in terms of what information, if any, they need from us, or are they just looking for us to be available, or what is the expectation?
In the last couple of days, I have spoken to 2 Board of Selectmen members. Both of them feel at this point, it is probably premature for us to appear to the Board of Selectmen.
And that may be the case now after everything's going on, but
Right.
up until 2 weeks ago, that was not the case. So,
Yeah,
and I might get word tomorrow that, you're no longer at this point needed in front of them, but at this point, you're still on the agenda for the 27th. Like I said, I could change all tomorrow if I get word that you're no longer needed, but
And
from my understanding, they want a, similar to what Ellen's been trying to say, they want an impact of based on your recommendations on what you want to see happen over there and how much you could possibly afford based on that. It's not saying that the town might not pick up some of it, but that you have to be a little careful on that. The town could clearly say that the golf has to pay their whole share. That's how it is in Yarmouth, but it's not saying that some deals can't be made, but on the other side of that, where to hit some of these points earlier, we're not deferring any maintenance over at Bass River. We're deferring capital improvements at this point. So bunker work, T work, drainage, irrigation, those are all being deferred right now because there's no reason to invest that heavy amount of money if this is coming down the pipeline. So we have to defer it right now. There's no way we're gonna throw $2 or $3 million in the Bass River and then it gets dug up in 3 years. That's ridiculous. So we do need some answers, and we do need some answers rather quickly, but it all is on this timeline of DHY. So, you know, those can all be brought up if you're going in front of them as well, you know. And then on the other side of it, if the town of Yarmouth going alone, you're looking at 10 years down the line, this project is now not $15 million, but $20 million. You know, it just balloons every time. And to do it ourselves, you know, that's almost out of the question to do it ourselves. So, you know, you're talking about we're doing safety improvements, we're doing new holes, we're doing everything to fix the problems over there. The money that was set aside was a $2.5 million, you know, facelift, if you will, that happened at Bayberry. That's not at all what's happened over at Bass River. There's irrigation, there's new holes, there's new bunkers, there's new everything. They're two different projects, well different. So, you know, $2.5 million won't get you very far to improve the product over there. That's just the way it is in this day and age for the cost of everything. And I think Richard has everything pretty well built into the capital plan and on how we planned everything out. So
In a way, the wastewater project is giving us an opportunity to do that.
right,
Without the wastewater project,
it's unaffordable.
it's unaffordable.
To
And
do everything that you guys voted on to wanting to do, which is taking, you know, the bad starting holes, the safety improvements, you know, getting that golf course the way you want it and doing the master plan, that's on our own. You can see the cost. You know, they're picking up $11 million of it and you're picking up the rest. So it's a $15 million project by yourself. So, you know, and that's, if that's on the town of Yarmouth doing it by themselves, I'm not sure if they're willing to say, okay, we're going to give it all to them and not have golf pay for any of it. So, you know, these are all things that can be brought up during the meeting, but like Ellen said, it possibly could be down the road now that, you know, it's all up in the air a little bit right now.
And let's not even bring up the black horse of the discussion, which is how are we going to fund a $5 million clubhouse renovation that hasn't even been included, right? So I think there's a lot of things there that sound like they're a bit of a quagmire.
Well, no, it's been included, but I think it's time for Richard to maybe talk a little bit. It's been included in the estimates.
Right, so in the estimates, there was a $2 million, not a $5 million estimate based on a calculation of square footage for what I would term a clubhouse, which would be comparable to those of other courses running 18 holes. It is not going to, that would not be comparable though to say one of the facilities, for example, that was developed at Cummaquid, which was 17,000 square feet, which cost 2-point-something million. So so in terms of scale, so there are some assumptions in the capital plan that says it would not be a significant, it would be appropriately sized to the amount of play that would be anticipated at an 18-hole golf course. So that's already, that piece of it is in there. Now, if you want to go higher, then you'd have to, then, you know, you wanted to go for perhaps a clubhouse which had capabilities for wedding events and so on. You would have to put an additional piece on top of that to make it more like Cummaquid, as an example. But that, you know, again, that can be done.
So maybe I should ask the question a little differently, and then going back full circle 10 minutes to the original statement of going to make a presentation to the Board of Selectmen equals what? What is the formula for that discussion, and what's the intention for the agenda?
Think, once again, the intention of the presentation to the Board of Selectmen is to show them that we have done our homework to the point we do have a financial plan in place. We do not have all the answers, but we do have one. And it is not just a rubber stamp that we plan to give them to say, yes, we can afford this.
Well, it's
Because
not our
it's
job to say that or not say that. It's our job to say that we think that it's possible or to raise issues
Yes.
or risks, right?
That
And
is,
and Chris, that's probably all they're looking for at this point, because
Okay.
there's obviously way too many assumptions and questions that for everybody
Right.
right now.
Okay,
Until they
that's
get a
fair.
firm answer either way, then.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's all they're looking for, that's all we should give them.
And
Right. Well, that's, I mean, you can
All we
only go
got
as
to
far
give
as what you know, so.
it's also time to state the fact that this is an opportunity to do something with Bass River that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Yeah, with the caveat that it also is predicated on participation from Harwich and Dennis, which we have no control over.
Well,
So,
Right,
Even,
and that's
even
correct
if,
too.
even if the town does it on its own, the town's plan would still cause, partial destruction of parts of Bass River that would have to be repaired. And the cost of
yeah,
those
for sure.
repairs
Yeah, it's a
would
lot more expensive.
definitely still comes out of the wastewater project.
Yeah.
which
Right,
is
I mean, you would
part of the
be,
cost that we don't have to pay.
yeah, if that were
If and
the
when it
case,
comes online, you mean, right?
Right.
Okay.
yeah, if that was the case, and the town of Yarmouth chose to go alone, I mean, by the time it comes out, you're already into a different master plan or different whatever. I mean, that,
Right.
that's probably 10 years down the line, so.
Yeah, I think the difficult thing is if we have an entire cost structure for what we believe our capital improvements would be, without all of this, and then they're going to be asking, can we fulfill that with our own budget in isolation, right? Whether or not they charge back to the wastewater project is a different set of problems, a different topic. Right?
Well, there's also the idea that the costs are going to be so large for this project that in effect the costs for the golf course would seem minor in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a drop in the bucket, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're literally talking about, peanuts in comparison to what the overall cost is going to be and what they're adding on. Plus, there's also the possibility, there's all this talk about a major infrastructure plan throughout the country, and wastewater is one of the elements of this. And by doing this at this time, we may find the town may find itself able to get funding that it wouldn't otherwise have been able to get, which could also help to deal with these costs. But if everything keeps getting delayed and pushed down the road because of Dennis and Harwich, access to that might not be as available.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I agree with that. I agree with everything everybody said. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the right page in terms of what it was that what our role was in that discussion. That's all.
and our role is only advisory.
Yeah.
I believe in Chris. No one's more frustrated than me that every day I get a different answer of what's happening over there.
I can only imagine.
So I think,
at this point, I just would like to know if it's delayed till the fall. That's fine. Just, let's just make a decision on that. But it makes things easier if everybody knows what's happening.
Well, one thing that I could offer as a piece of guidance is, sometimes you're not able to define what the end state is, but you can define what your end state is, right? So, one thing that you could do is say, if you don't have a decision by this date, I'm not moving forward, right? Until next fiscal, right? Because you can't afford to. You can't afford to disrupt operations. You can't afford to, make those kind of pivots at that late of a date. So you are in charge of your own calendar to some degree. And I think that you could offer up a drop dead date for when a decision would be, needed if there's some sense of urgency to get that closed out, or in which case you would defer the discussion until next planning cycle, right?
Well, I think that the town is faced with some drop dead dates too. They said in that article that they have to finish their cooperative planning with the state. The latest that they can put that off to is this fall.
Mm-hmm.
If they go beyond this fall, then they can no longer
They can no longer join forces, right?
When they open
Yeah.
Route 28, and then there's a 5-year
Moratorium on construction.
on
Yep.
on opening the road again.
That's right.
And
So-
and in the background of all of this are threats of lawsuits.
That's right. Yeah, I read
And
that too.
they're already going on. Mashpee is being sued. Barnstable's been threatened. You know, if the towns don't show that they're making progress on these types of programs, there's hell to pay out there.
Yeah. Well, it may come to pass then that we have to move. I mean, this is totally beyond our pay grade and our charter, but I mean, if the town gets into a situation where they have to make a go, no go decision, they could sue the other towns, right? For participation. Like, you have to participate. You cannot ignore and not participate.
Well,
right?
but we can then turn around and do it on our own. That's their answer.
I
We also
think
have
that's all
everybody in
beyond
town.
us.
That's all beyond our scope, so I'm not really
Correct.
invested
Let's-
in that discussion.
And we also
I-
have
I-
everybody in town who thinks the course is going to be closed next year. I mean,
Yeah.
all these rumors are still going around that Bass River is not going to be open next year. Or, you know,
Right,
Well,
so,
that problem's easy to solve, so.
and
well-
Scott will be putting out another newsletter soon with some of the updates on what's going on.
I'd still love to get the first one. If I can get on the distribution list, that would be awesome.
Why don't we just move on to the director's report now? Cover some of the topics there, and then we'll work into some just general discussion with a couple of items.
All right. First and foremost, everybody can see that Dennis Hoye is on the Zoom meeting. Dennis is now a full-time member for us, and I'd just like to congratulate him and welcome aboard. And
Welcome.
here's your
Welcome,
time to give a
Dennis.
little spiel, Dennis, and say what you want to say.
Well, first, I'd just like to say thank you for everybody for the support over the last several years. And it's nice to be on board, and hopefully I can get much more involved and help Scott as much as I can with all these projects and things coming up, having been through a lot of them when I was at Cranberry Valley over the years. So I appreciate it, and I'm excited and looking forward to getting working.
so what's
And
your
to have you
exact
with us.
what's your exact role now? Your title or whatever?
That's a good question.
It's a moving title. It's a moving title. He's full-time with us now. We'll fix all that in the coming months here,
Okay.
but you'll be seeing a lot more of him. That's for sure.
Ted, I have to congratulate you. That was a great question. I was wondering what he's going to be doing myself.
Well, that's up to.
He's definitely
Scott
gonna
to
be, Dennis is definitely gonna be involved in some league matters, tournaments, and helping us get off the ground with instruction, taking a lot of that in-house as far as some of his other duties already. So there's a lot on the table, and but nothing he can't handle. So as far as to get into this a little bit, just a few things. We did complete the Bayberry Hills Pro Shop makeover. If you haven't seen it, looks pretty good. We are very excited about the new T-line system coming in on April 19th. The pads are all done, just waiting on the map to get installed. I'm not sure if everyone received the email, but we did adjust the schedule here at Bayberry.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about that.
I figured you weren't, but there's a reason why we did, Tay. We're aerating early, so we don't have to shut down again. So we moved up aeration schedules for both courses. This wasn't just decided on when. We looked at the tee sheets for the next couple of weeks. There wasn't a lot of bookings or anything, so we felt it's better to take the time now while we're down, stay down, do the aerating, get it all done, and then we can refire. Bayberry Hills will be open 7 days a week starting April 23rd. We then will close Bass River the last week of April to aerate and fertilize over there and refire April 30th. So both courses will be 7 days a week by April 30th. So
Okay, that's actually welcome. We played tournament last weekend, and I remember a couple people, myself included, commenting saying greens were not really very receptive to holding anything. They're just pretty firm. I think one of the comments was aeration needs to happen. So it's good to see that that's on the calendar.
And does that mean the leagues will start play on beginning of May, Scott?
I think Becky's on the call. She can elaborate on that. I think they're already playing some of them.
Yeah, actually, typically the leagues start from April 1st and they run to October 31st. This year, the 18-hole ladies opted to start the first week of May. The 18-hole men have decided that they wanted to start this coming Wednesday as their first week. And the Sunday leagues have already been going as of April 1st. I think April 4th was the first date.
Okay, great.
I mean, that's really no different. We usually aerate first or second week of May, and they would have to stop when we aerate. So
There's always Mother's Day.
this way we get it out of the way, and then we don't have to shut down again. So it's a lot better to do it this way.
Yeah, great.
For the restaurants, I know that's kind of a hot button issue. That contract has been awarded, and they are Ches Hospitality Group. We've worked on a deal with them. Their tentative opening date is April 16th at Bayberry Hills, and then the 30th at Bass River Grill. They're going to follow our schedule and when we're opening. So don't expect to see them open if we're not open in April. But good news there. But yeah, I would hope to see them April 16th. That's the plan. And then for course conditions, I'm sure you played. If you have played, we finished all our winter work. Tree removal is done. We are into some regular mowing schedules, although not every day yet. It's still really cold. Grass isn't moving yet. And irrigation is up and running, and we are using it because, as Chris alluded to, it's pretty firm and dry out there. So April showers have not come yet. It's pretty dry, and we have to irrigate. Another reason why we're aerating early to open them up, get some moisture into the greens. So for POS update, Bayberry Hills is up and running on the new system. It's been since we refired up there. We'll switch over at Bass River in the week that's closed down for aeration. It has no effect to you guys on how to book tee times and everything. Everything's the same. It's just on our end. I attached league policies and the membership update. Ellen, you want me to go through that now, or you want to wait?
No, that's good. No, let's just talk. Yep.
I'll let Becky do the league. She's the one that usually sees it up. You're on,
Okay.
Becky.
Okay. So you all got a copy of the league policies and procedures. I think it was pretty well spelled out. Basics, no leagues plays on holidays and holiday weekends. You have to abide by the rules of Yarmouth Golf. If you're unfamiliar with the rules of Yarmouth Golf, you can go onto our website under policies and procedures, and you'll find everything there. Block times are subject to availability, and I don't think that leagues realize that if we have a group of 60 players that want to play on a Wednesday morning, we're going to book them on the Wednesday morning, and the 60s are going to get bounced, or a Sunday morning, someone's going to get bounced. It's all available. It's all on availability. We're obviously going to try to accommodate you as much as possible, but maybe it won't happen 100% of the time. And I honestly don't think that has ever happened before, but we just wanted to put that caveat in there that perhaps that may be a case 1 in a million times. Weekly block times are for members only, and leagues are going to be playing at the first tee time of the day. That was something that Scott switched up. We thought that was an important thing to do, to get the leagues out of the way so we could encourage a little bit more of outside play. Scott was very gracious. He reduced the payments this year for the leagues. Previously, the 18-hole leagues always paid $5 to the pro shop. This year, he's reduced it to $4. And the 9-hole leagues were previously $2.50. That's been reduced to $2. And then again,
Becky, before you go further, will you elaborate how that money is allocated in the credit books, please?
Sure. When the leagues give me the money 48 hours prior to their date of play, that money is put into the pro shop credits. Most of the leagues just opt to use that money just to pool it into their league, and then they disperse it however they want. Some other leagues have said this is what we want to do with the money that we've allocated to the pro shop. We want the first, second, and third place winners to receive the money, and they divvy it up themselves that way. I do have one league that likes to get specifically every league is different. So I do it a little bit different for every league, but the money definitely goes into the pro shop, and it's available specifically for your league to spend as you wish, or for that individual to spend as they wish for pro shop merchandise. It can't be used for carts. It can't be used for gift certificates. It can't be used in the restaurant anymore. It can't be used for
Greens fees.
driving range.
Yeah, greens fees too. Can't be used for greens fees.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
That's there.
Basically, it's for pro shop merchandise only. That is it. You're supporting your pro shops by having this money in the shops. You're supporting your shop.
It's important to know this is the trade-off for the times. You know, the times are set
Correct.
aside. This is the
Right.
trade-off.
Right. And I think honestly,
We actually don't take any money. It goes right back to the leagues.
it goes to you, right? And I think I think Scott's super generous with $4 and $2, because I was talking with Dennis earlier today, and he said when he was at Cranberry, he used to charge $10 per person. So I don't think the leagues realize how good they have it at $4 per person. I think that's super, super generous on Scott's
You
part.
barely buy a cup of coffee for that these days. So
Exactly.
They still think they shouldn't be paying anything. What do you mean?
of course, this
Well,
wouldn't
then-
be a good Yankee if you weren't doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I
And we
still
can just-
think the league should be playing in the afternoon during the prime season.
Another discussion. Let's
regarding a
move on.
discussion that we
No,
made.
no, we can't go there. Come on.
No,
Andy,
we've
we
been
can't
there,
go
done that one. Let's go back to the director's report.
We got them
please.
to 2 days a
Sorry,
week during the
I
week.
don't believe that is correct under Robert's Rules of Order. If I was speaking, I have the right to finish my statement, and at that time, you can tell me you want to move on. But at this time, I have the floor. Now, I
Can I ask for the
believe
floor?
that we made a presentation, and I made part of it to the selectmen, that if the leagues who are getting a great deal, and I just called today about joining one of the leagues, if they played in the afternoons only during the prime season, we could make an additional multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars for the course by making the leagues play in the very open 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock times in the afternoon. That's the statement I want to make. Now you can shut me off and continue. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Okay, shall I continue with the league pace of play?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to note in there, and I felt it was really important, just to put in a caveat that the league, the pace of play at Bass River, since it's such a short course, I expect pace of play to be 4 hours or less, and I just don't think that's unreasonable. And especially for the 9-hole leagues, at 2 hours or less. It's been really painful over the years to watch some of the leagues play really slowly. I mean, really slowly. And
Can't blame it
really-
on daily feed either, because they're the first ones off. So don't blame it on daily feed. It's their own doing to slow it
And
up.
yeah, the unfortunate thing is that everybody else behind them is now playing a 5.5 to a 6 hour round. So that's something that we're really going to be diligent about this year. I'm going to be giving my Rangers a little time chart, and that's going to say, if you teed off at 7 o'clock if you're on hole number 9, you should be there at this time and this time and this time. And we're going to be monitoring that very closely to make sure that the pace of play is up to speed, up to where it should be.
Smart.
Because
Yep.
that's always been a thing with the leagues. And the last page is just make sure that all your this goes to everybody in the league so they can see what's expected of them too. It's not going to be a good thing if you sign it, you read it, and you don't pass it along to everybody else in your league. So everybody has to be on the same page with the league. And if that's the case, then things should flow really smoothly.
Becky, thank you very much for addressing pace of play and for all the hard work you've put into it. It's very important to our courses. Thank you.
Becky, you're more
you.
generous than the USGA when it comes to 5 minutes looking for a lost ball. The USGA now only gives you 3 minutes.
Oh, we
Well,
can
that's-
lower it, Ted. We can lower
That's why
it.
we
We'll put
cattle
it-
prod you to move here in less than 2 hours or less.
I
Hey,
have one
Scott?
question. I have
Oh,
one
sorry.
question. It says league players may not take their own cart. You mean a
Single carts,
Single?
like, right, like,
Okay.
say the 18-hole ladies, Ellen can't have her own cart, Bev can't have her own cart. You have to ride together.
Let me
If you-
chime in on that a little bit so that
Okay.
everybody feels a little safer on that. We just ordered 100 cart dividers that are going to go into the carts. This was signed off on Friday by the Board of Health,
Mm.
so that we no longer have to do single rider. So half the fleet will have a cart that's normal. If you want that to ride with someone, that's fine. And half the fleet will have the dividers in it, and that's how we're going about that. And it was signed off by the Board of Health on Friday. So
That should be interesting.
Excellent.
Plexiglass
Yeah.
dividers.
that can
and
make
those
things
should
a
be in
little
tomorrow.
tight.
Next day, they'll be in the carts.
Yeah. Quick-
Scott, I have, oh, go ahead, Chris.
Apologies. I will wait my turn. I have a question regarding tournaments. So whenever that's a convenient time to ask Scott a question or two, I'd like the floor, please.
I was just going to ask on this, on the league policy. We discussed the fact that there could be no monetary prizes. Is that not the case?
That's correct. It cannot be for money.
Do we
Under
not
the
need
league.
to put something in the policy for this?
We can add that. I mean, if
Sure, you can add it.
it's something we can't support. It has to be for the way we're having around. So we'll put on no money.
Sure.
Yeah, all prize money has to be in pro shop credits. It can't be a cash payment.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's not Yarmouth golf rule. That's a USGA and MGA
Yeah,
rule.
that's the
Those are-
USGA.
That's
yeah.
how you maintain your amateur status.
Yes, and I guess I would make sure that that's part of the, in this letter here that they're signing off, just make sure it says per USA rules. So
That's
that,
good.
We'll add that in there.
yeah, thanks. Richard,
Becky, can people be a member of more than one league?
No, you can only be a member of one league.
Didn't know that.
Should that be in there?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll
can
put
add-
that in there.
And are leagues open to all members, obviously with the exception of Lynx members and junior members because they can't play at that morning slot?
It's all
Yes.
it's open to all annual pass holders. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they are all aware that they've all gotten numerous emails from me over the years to make sure that they're being inviting to everybody.
Good.
they are full pass members, correct? Not, they can't join the links and then play at the
Right.
Bass River League.
Correct. Yeah, links and juniors.
The more restricted ones. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back to, that was great, Becky. Let's go back to the rest of the director's report and then we'll get on to, Chris, I know you have some things you want to bring up and we'll handle that after the director's report, if that's okay.
Sure, no problem.
Becky, you might as well go and do the membership update as well.
Sure. Memberships this year are absolutely booming. I can't believe because I'm in charge of recording all the memberships. They have been off the charts. I'm coming in every day to work and I have at least a dozen new memberships every day. It's crazy. So
How
far,
many-
we've got
What's the count? Oh, sorry.
655 people that have joined so far this year. As of today.
Full
650
memberships?
No, that's total.
Oh, okay.
The regular annual memberships have been 358. Non-residents, I think, are at an all-time high of 63. Seniors are at 41. Under 35, 99. Young adult, 26. Juniors, 29. And the most interesting thing to me is that the Lynx memberships this year are only at 39 versus last year, the Lynx memberships were at 119. So people are opting to get a full $1,200 membership as opposed to going to that $330 links membership.
Yeah, I think last year we had all those people who were concerned about what was going on with COVID and didn't know what to do. So rather than spend the full money, they went for
They
They-
cheaped out.
cheaped out. Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing also, we had hoped and anticipated by offering the links membership that people would come and play and like the course and then decide to move up to a full membership in a year or two. And it would be interesting to see how many full first-time members had a links membership last year who have now gone up to a full membership.
Converted.
That was
Yeah.
one of our concerns when we did it, and I hope it's working.
It is working. And also the links memberships that have booted up to a full membership. And also I found there's been quite a few people who didn't join last year and have come back this year. In other words, they took the year off last year just because of COVID. And so that percentage, I did a percentage, the total of new players out of 655 people that we now have on the books, the total of new players this year has been 212, which is a percentage of a 32% increase in just new players, 32% new players.
That's wonderful. That's great. And I
Yeah.
hope can
We
keep
haven't
it-
even got to the time of year when they start coming back from Florida in big numbers.
Well, I was just gonna say that, Teddy.
Right.
We're really not even at the point where, it's usually end of April, May, where membership kind of booms around here.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing
Just our
is that
winter hanger-ons here.
last year by July 1st, we had 819 members. And as of today, we're at 655. So we're only down 124 people. It's like, and we haven't even gotten the people from Florida back yet. So
Well,
a membership,
I'd like
membership
to see
definitely.
the links membership affordable, hoping that it's a stepping stone for people to join full time.
Right. So that's all I've got. Memberships are moving.
But
Excellent.
Memberships are moving.
All right, was there anything, now we get to the financials.
yeah, so I attached the munis report. If anyone has any questions on that, by all means, we can go into that. That is not a misprint on revenues. We are up $1.1 million over the same time last year. COVID has boomed the golf industry, and it's still booming the golf industry.
Is that gross or net, Scott?
That is gross. But it's still going crazy in this world of golf and COVID. So there's no end in sight at this point. And then expenses are slightly up. That's mainly due to we were closed last year at this time. So obviously we need to spend some more money not being closed. But, that's pretty much all I got. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything.
What's the plan for bunkers at Bayberry? They are absolutely horrendous.
As
Sorry.
far as,
Didn't mean to poke you that way, but they're just like giant mud puddles for the most part.
well, they've just been adding a bunch of sand to them because they were really low on sand because we couldn't put that in last year.
Okay.
So we ended up saying to put them to the proper levels. Now we just need to go around and compact them.
Yeah.
And as we go through the next couple of weeks, they'll just generally compact themselves. So they'll get
Okay.
better as we move on.
All right. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, have you played it? Have you played at Bayberry this year,
I
Chris?
played there yesterday, Saturday. Yeah.
Oh, because I played there last Thursday, and I was surprised that the bunkers didn't seem as hard. But then we haven't had a whole lot of rain either. So.
Right. Another question I keep getting asked, and I'll just address it in case someone had the question. We still cannot put rakes out. So there's still going to be a mess, and there's not much we can do about that. So the rakes are still having to be sanitized on a regular basis, which means like almost every couple hours, we just don't have the bodies to do that. So they have to stay out until that goes away from the state.
Scott, actually, I happen to play this weekend. I played with an engineer who's owns a summer home here in Yarmouth and has a resident membership. There was a rake on the 9th hole at Bayberry, the only one we saw on the whole course. And I was discussing the problems when he and his son, I believe it was, were in a bunker and trying to get out. And they were in the sand trap, and and he was mentioning how there was water in there, and I discussed the water permeable concrete and all, and how we were gonna contemplate adding more sand and then removing the concrete and all, and it was expensive. And he said, why don't you just drill some holes in the concrete, put screen over it, and allow the water to drain out? Put the holes in the low point of the trap. So that might be a middle point for you. Adding more sand. If it doesn't, dig a hole in the low point, drill a 3 or 4 inch hole through the concrete, put a screen over it, put the sand back in, and see if the water will drain out. Just a view from an engineer that I happen to play golf with this weekend, who is a member and loves the course. I told him I would bring it up to you at the meeting on Monday. So just an idea.
Okay, thank you.
Any other amendments, concerns? Chris, I know you have some. You want to talk about your?
I have 3 things that are on my list, so take them in whatever order. So over the course of the weekend, we had some issues with the tournament execution, and just wanted to bring that up for discussion, or at least elevate so that there's some transparency. It was rather frustrating. I think everybody in general enjoyed the tournament, and of course the tournament committee does a fantastic job by and large. They have a tough job, and everybody respects them. But there was some complications that came up in terms of communicating what the tee times and pairings were for day 2. And it was never communicated to the field that they were going to do that via Facebook. There's a number of people who don't use Facebook, myself included, and we didn't even know. So I was, finding out that I was supposed to tee off at 7:30, and I got the notice at 6:42 a.m. Not exactly ideal. And there were quite a few people who didn't make it in time as a result. I would just suggest that either needs to be communicated in advance so that everybody's aware of what the situation is. And I would hope that we don't need to use Facebook in order to do that. When I asked Mike Barry what was going on, he had said that there was, he didn't have everybody's email addresses, and so that he had made sort of a decision to do that. I think, either get them the email addresses or collect them when the people register. Email is a fine format for that. I don't really know that we need to change, but I'm not sure, Scott, if you've had a chance to think about that or what you want to do with it, but maybe just a quick conversation would be worthwhile.
Were they not available on the alpha sheet?
I have no idea. I mean, that was just what I was told. I don't believe it's true. I think everybody signs up with an email address, so.
But still, were the tee times were the people listed for their tee time on the alpha sheet?
I have no idea. I don't think people even know to go check that, Ted, including myself.
I mean, you go on the Chelsea system and you click on check my schedule.
Yeah, I don't think people were used to that as a process. I think generally what happens in the way that it's been handled, at least last year and the several years in the past, is that Mike Barry was always kind enough to send out the tee times and the pairings at the end of the day. Usually it came out between 8 and 10 p.m. And then we would know, right? And since all of the initial communications were done that way in terms of the initial tee times, it seemed logical that would be the method that would be used to follow up.
Yeah, we've never actually sent notices out of tee times through our system. That's always done through Mike. Now I can have a conversation with Mike to see what we can do to help alleviate some of these problems. I'll let Dennis and Becky weigh in a little bit because they're more on the front lines of this and see what we can come up with.
Sure. Yeah. Again, not a huge issue, but it would be a much better experience for the people that are participating in the tournament.
Yeah, I think we can probably talk to Mike and come up with a resolution to make it easier to find out what your tee time is.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
Also too, on all the sign up sheets, when they do come in, there is a place to put your email down for every player. So it should be able to be done that way. It shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah,
Right.
my poor player partner was texting me at 7:20 going, do you know when we're off? And I said, I just found out we're off at 7:30. And he's like, all right, I'm leaving now. And he was still, 15, 20 minutes late getting there. So it was just difficult and kind of, could have been a little bit better. So
we are working with our 1-to-1 marketing, our new website provider, to move it all to an online based system. They have a whole event registration. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
Once we get that all set up, it's probably just to click a button to let everybody know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because everybody will be able to sign up through there.
Okay, cool. My second
Can I
topic.
just-
Oh,
I'm sorry,
go
can I
ahead.
just ask a quick question? Like, did you hang around after the tournament was over when they were doing all the scoring and stuff? So you might have seen
Oh,
what
I
time you
didn't
were.
even know. I just checked in. I gave him my card, signed off, and then I saw him marking up the little cards for each team. But since we were the first off, we would have been waiting there for probably 2 hours for
Oh,
the
okay.
field to finish, right?
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
dead last, so. Yeah, it probably wasn't going to work out and it was super cold, and I think everybody was just kind of beat up, Yeah, so.
Cape Cod in the spring, one day nice, one day cold. It's
Yeah. But
Cape Cod in April.
yeah.
Becky, do they put it into the Chelsea system so that that people's tee times would be listed?
Yes, but I believe in this case, they didn't finish until late. I want to say the last group was coming in at,
6:30, 7 o'clock.
okay, 7.
Wow.
And Dennis had already left the course. He closed on Saturday night. He leaves at 6:30. So there was no way that he was going to be able to input anything into the tee sheet on Saturday night, so people would know what time they had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not a huge issue. Just I think it's a communication issue more than anything. If we just set expectations up front, it would have
Yeah,
been fine.
it's something that we can talk to Mike Barry and come to a resolution, figure out how to do this
Yeah.
a little smoother going forward.
Okay, cool, thanks. Second topic is a little bit larger. I just wanted to revisit this because we brought it up in February's GC meeting. In February, we talked about the possibility of introducing a new product in our memberships category that would be similar to a Lynx membership but apply to Bass River. And I'm thinking of all the people who are sort of old timers or folks that, just want to play a few holes in the afternoon, like my mom or other people. That maybe that would be a way for them to, remain engaged and get memberships without having to, because obviously the answer is, well, go get a Lynx membership. But, for people that are right next to Bass River or in that vicinity, they'd rather play that course. Plus it's shorter. So it's easier to walk, And so I know that we had talked, and it was on record that we were going to defer that discussion for April on the potential for adding a new product to the lineup for not this fiscal, but next fiscal. I just wanted to put that back on people's radar to say, we don't have to talk about it today, but maybe we should talk about it soon.
Hey, Chris, you're talking about a Bass River only membership or like a
Yeah, something like that. Something similar to like the Lynx, but just for Bass River. Yeah.
What about like a Twilight type membership?
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines. Yeah.
Actually, we used to have a silver membership that allowed you to play after 2 p.m. at both courses.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Chris is really looking for, though. He's saying
No,
he's more talking about Bass River.
Chris mentioned only Bass River, but
Right.
we used to have a membership that allowed you to play at both courses after 2 p.m. So
Okay.
perhaps he
Right.
might
Twilight,
accept
maybe.
something like Dennis said, a Twilight,
Right.
like they have in Brewster, a Twilight membership.
Yeah, but one of the things we tried to do was to simplify and not have as many choices, because didn't we find out that when you looked at places like Brewster, when they did that, after a while, people started gravitating towards the less expensive membership.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, Ted, I agree with you because I was the biggest proponent of following Dennis's lead, and you're either a member or you're not a member. The
Right.
trouble with Yarmouth many years ago, was we had too many memberships and it cut into our income base.
Yeah.
Very-
When I started
Very-
here, they had a silver, a platinum, and a platinum, a gold, and a silver. And there was one platinum member, Charlie McCabe.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly. I
Um,
remember that very well.
But that was because that was the membership that they gave a person permission. If you were a platinum member, not only did you get your cart with your membership, but you also got the ability to make tee times a day earlier.
Right.
They had the phone system back then, and the person who had a platinum membership could call 3 days in advance and make a tee time, and everyone else could only call the night before at 6 o'clock or something like that.
Right. But
I
to keep on point with this, if we could figure out some type of membership which would not affect our bottom line and would allow senior players to play at a reduced fee, I would vote for it.
Well, I think
As long as it
that,
doesn't affect our
Chris
bottom
brought,
line.
excuse me, I think Chris brought it up, and we'll add it to maybe the May agenda to get started looking into our new rate system for the following year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that seems reasonable.
I'll put it on, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the consideration. I just thought that was a worthwhile topic, and we all seem to have positive feedback about it. So I think there's probably some ideas that we can come up with there.
Yep.
You know, I know that there's a lot of people that would really appreciate it, and that they really truly love Bass River, and they don't really want to play over at Bayberry, you know, for various reasons, whether
It
it's
goes
length
both
or-
ways.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the former camp, the latter camp rather. It's like a shooting gallery over there sometimes. And Ellen, you let me know when you want to talk about the quiet enjoyment policy, or if we're gonna, I don't know if you
No,
want to
bring it
announce
up
that.
right
Or...
now. I think we actually discussed it a couple of years ago, maybe before you joined the committee.
Mm-hmm. I know it's been mentioned a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm happy to
you
sort of
wanna-
cover it again. I wrote it up in an email just to make sure that it was, you know, pretty clear. I mean, really, it's the notion of etiquette and sort of the history of the game, right? It's not designed to be, you know, it shouldn't be designed to support this. And, you know, regardless of how you feel about it, I think the reality is that it's encroached on the game more significantly now than in past years. And I mentioned this to Scott last night. Again, I had an issue with it again in the tournament last weekend. We were playing with two really nice gentlemen, young guys. They were fantastic players, but they wanted to crank tunes. And during a tournament with prize money and a title at stake, right? And my playing partner, I just kind of sat there and suffered through it, but my playing partner was not interested in that, and on several occasions had to tell the guys to turn it down. So the idea behind this policy that we're recommending, that, you know, Scott would be the person that proposes this, you know, we're just bringing it up as feedback at this point. But there needs to be, I think, some limits to those scenarios, right? And so the notion here is that the protocol used to be that if you wanted to play music in a foursome, that you would ask your playing partners at the onset if they were okay if you listened to music, right? And if somebody objected, mostly people would be like, oh, okay, no problem. We'll just put the device away and call it good, right? And that was back before they had, you know, the big, you know, the Bluetooth speakers that were so powerful that they were basically playing on their tiny little phone speakers. So not a big issue, but, you know, now with the advent of technology and how these things are like mini boom boxes, right? So, you know, to put it into context, we wouldn't have allowed somebody to come in with like a big giant boom box, you know, in the 80s or the 90s, and that's the equivalent of it. Andy and I had the same situation when we played 2 weeks ago. We were on the what were on the 12th tee playing in, and there was a group on two that was literally cranking Foreigner so loud you could hear it all over the course, and it was just nuts, right? I'm just like, wow. So, you know, we can kind of see these, we're not really, the purpose of this isn't to prevent people from having a good time. We're not trying to squash people's, you know, creativity or their flexibility, but certainly during tournaments, it should be disallowed. Certainly during, you know, normal regular playing conditions, it should be, you know, a situation that is, you know, based upon everybody's consent to doing that, as opposed to a right or, you know, an assumptive right by these folks. And it's not age group dependent either. I see this from 20 to 50 years old, right? It's, you know, there's no real demographics involved in it. It's just a personal preference. But I think the notion is that there needs to be some sort of language that is communicated. We can communicate it in policy form via, you know, the policy guidelines. We should be communicating it when people, you know, register for tee times, when people check in. We can do it via signage. There's all sorts of ways that we can reinforce the messaging and do it in a polite and respectful way, while preserving the that's where the notion is for this proposal.
Either Scott or Dennis, do you want to weigh in, or Becky?
I can weigh in if you want.
Go ahead, Dennis.
One of the things, as far as the tournament committee goes, I think I can have sit down with Mike Barry and talk to him about that, because I can see that point during a tournament for sure. But I'll talk to him and see what he thinks about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to rat anybody out. It wasn't
No.
really it wasn't to take action against anybody punitively. It was just an acknowledgement that this is a scenario that really shouldn't exist, right? And
Yep.
and then I don't know if you guys have other comments in just terms of general play, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are there too.
I wonder if, do we have to even make it a policy? Can't management put up signage and say that you have to ask the people you're playing with and to be respectful and things like that? Does it have to be? Do we have to make a policy on everything?
No,
Well, I
and you
think
shouldn't
the
be.
proper thing would be to make a policy, and that will enable management to enforce the policy.
That's the
And it
purpose,
wouldn't-
yeah.
Well,
and it
I mean,
wouldn't have to be
I
stringent.
don't disagree that
Yes.
something should be done, but do
I'm
we have to
sorry,
make?
I thought I was speaking, Ted.
Okay.
And it wouldn't have to be anything argumentative. It would just have to be no offensive music. Golf is a sport that's steeped in etiquette, in history, and it's played to be enjoyed. I have no problem with people listening to loud music if they have earbuds on. And as Chris said, technology today, you can wear wireless earbuds, you can wear wired earbuds. I don't care if other people listen to loud music. I don't want to have to listen to their loud music.
Right.
They can enjoy it, but not everyone within 100 yards. So I have no objection to music on the course, but I have objection to loud music on the course. And I think we have to have policy if management can enforce it. Thank you.
Becky, do you want to say something? You had started to talk.
I think that if you want to have music, that's fine. It just has to be toned down and be quiet. So, the whole golf course doesn't hear it. It's just you and in your immediate cart area. There's nothing wrong with music, but just keep it quiet. That's all.
Yeah,
I
the problem
agree.
is
I agree.
nobody
That's the
ever,
problem.
people
Yeah.
do what they want, Yeah.
Becky, I agree with you, and that's exactly the point of this conversation. Anyone can have any music they want, as long as I don't have to hear it 3 fairways away.
Exactly. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a ranger now out.
Right.
Right? Could he not, if this is a problem, just speak to them gently about?
Well, I think that was the point of Chris's very well worded suggestion, that the ranger go to them, ask them to tone it down. And it has steps like anything else. Escalation. If they don't tone it down, he speaks to them again. If they don't tone it down, you ask them you tell them to tone it down. I think we do need a policy, and I believe it's something that's well worth looking into.
I will get with Becky and Dennis, and we'll come up with something to put in front of you guys.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks,
Yeah, I
Scott.
think that'll help a lot.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, anybody else have anything they would like to bring up for members' concerns? Anybody like to, let's see, next meeting. Anybody got a calendar? That's if we are not asked to present, and I will let you know as soon as we hear anything. Scott, what have you got?
Yeah.
The May 10th.
May 10th, yeah.
Anybody, is that okay with you, Scott? I know sometimes you have an issue with it. Yes, Richard. Okay.
It should be good for me.
Okay.
My one suggestion was that we move to meet in the middle at 6 p.m. So in case Dennis or Becky or anyone else needs to join me, as you know, with golfing
I would
season.
second that. I barely get here from getting out of work, so it's a little challenging.
I know 7 p.m. is a little late for people, so let's meet in the middle at 6 p.m.
Okay, what about going non-Zoom and meeting?
I can't do that right now because that's a
Okay.
town ordinance. If they choose to get away with that, I'd be happy to do that for you guys. But At this point, every meeting's via Zoom.
Okay, then
That's cool.
Zoom it is on the 10th at 6 o'clock.
I will let you know if that changes, and that will also be up to you guys if you choose to meet in person or not. That if they give us the go ahead.
Okay. Do we have a motion to,
Adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn. Yep.
I will second that.
all right, roll call, Andy,
Aye.
Bev,
Here's the thumbs up.
Yes.
Ted,
Aye.
Richard,
Yes.
I do also. Becky and Dennis, thank you for joining
Thank you,
us.
everyone.
As
Right.
well as
You're welcome.
Barbara.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank
Hey,
you very
everybody.
much for
Everyone.
participating. Bye.